Last year, Kia decided to do an upgrade to the Sportage if you were outside of North America. Now for the 2023 Sportage in North America, we have this. The brand new look features the new Kia logo, some incredible upgraded technology, and a series of incredible options, brand new for the 2023 model year. And this thing looks really, really sharp, especially when you compare it to the previous gen version of the vehicle. So it's got a good facelift on the outside that was done. But before we get started unpacking this thing, I do want to give Durham Kia a huge shout out and a thank you for giving me access to this vehicle to shoot the video for you guys today. Check down in the description below for their contact details. You can find the build link for this vehicle and then technology walkarounds. So if you want to know how to use the steering wheel, cluster, screen, or hook up Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, all of those videos you'll be able to find down in the description below. So it's kind of neat, but I love what Kia's done with the new look of the Sportage. It's got a very, very different look than last year's model. Starting off with some basics. We have a series of different option style tires, different sizes for the actual tire itself, but then different rim choices that are going to depend on which version of the vehicle that you're in. Now this specific one is the X-Line Limited. So it is essentially going to be the highest available trim level in Canada, and it looks fairly sharp. Now, when we look at Canada versus the States, naming conventions for the two are slightly different from one another. Not too far off, but a lot of the same features are going to be carried across the board. But the rims do look fantastic inside of this. When it comes down to available drivetrains, the Sportage in the lower trim levels are going to be available either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. As we move up and we go to those higher trim levels instead, strictly going to be available all-wheel drive. But it is really nice to know that all-wheel drive, it just handles infinitely better in the wintertime in comparison to just your regular front-wheel drive. We also have the option on the inside for some great things, so we can change between different drive modes as well. So if you're going off-roading, it's kind of interesting what we've got there. We've got our slippery modes and a few others as well. It's just kind of neat. But we've got a nice rocker molding along the very bottom, nice silver highlight along the driver-passenger side. And then as we move forward into these headlamps, the new style looks great. We've got this like little almost L weird looking V thing going on over there, which kind of looks fairly neat, but the base styling there is great. And then that rocker molding that we saw along the side of the body, we've got that nice silver highlight that carries through the part of the grille, moving down to the bottom part of the bumper there as well. It's kind of a nice wraparound highlight. But we do have a fantastic looking grille in the front with our new Kia badge right along the very top. So Kia did go through a little bit of a rebranding. I personally think that the newer Kia logo does look fairly sharp. It's kind of neat what they've decided to do with that. But one thing, we do have a front-facing camera inside of this thing. So as we get into the highest available trim level, we do have that front-facing camera. We've got side view mounted cameras and a backup camera. So this thing does have a full 360 monitor. So if you want to know kind of what's going on around you, getting out of tight spaces, whatever the case may be, just knowing this thing has that 360 monitor capability, which is incredible. And because we do have our side mounted cameras there as well along our side view mirrors, this thing also has a blind spot monitor. And it's incredible because we can see what's going on in our blind spot inside of the cluster screen. I love that Kia has that as an available option, and all of the different technology, like we've got our forward sensors, we've got a reverse sensing system as well, which, I mean, I love it. We've got that beeping as we go forwards, backwards, etc., getting closer to obstacles. It's incredible. And I do love the amount of technology that Kia is able to push inside of their vehicles at the price point they are. Because this thing, pretty much fully loaded, is going to come up at around 43,000 Canadian. It's kind of nuts if you think about it. Taking a peek underneath the hood, in order to get underneath, typical with most manufacturers, just to the left-hand side of our pedals, we're just going to pull once. This thing's not on hydraulics, and there also is a little release, so we're just going to lift up right in the middle there, switch off to the left, and here it is. So it's the 2.5 liter GDI engine. Now, power-wise, this thing is going to be able to push out 187 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. So very similar to a lot of other vehicles that are going to be in the same class, looking at the overall size of this thing. But very, very straightforward. We do have our engine cover along the middle there with a nice GDI badge highlight. It looks nice. We've got a SmartStream technology badge along the left-hand side as well. And then if you're handy and you're doing some things yourself, we can easily top up fluids along our left side. We can easily check our oil, and then battery, fuse panels, things like that, just off to the right-hand side of the bay here. But overall styling inside of this thing, really, really nice. Now, filling up fuel inside of the Sportage is very straightforward. So along our driver's side door, we've got a little cutout there, and it's a cap system as well, which is really nice. Now, the majority of Kia vehicles are also going to be regular gas, so just an 87 octane at a minimum manufacturer's recommendation. And you don't need to use a higher premium fuel inside of these things. The Sportage especially, it is rated just for your regular 87. Towards the back end of the Sportage, it has that same great Kia logo along the very back. We've got our nice new Sportage badge along the left-hand side. And then depending on your trim level, you might have a badge, you might not, along the right side. So this is the X-Line Limited, but it does have the X-Line badge along the right side there. Now, something you won't be able to see from your vantage point, this thing does have a rear wiper that's actually hidden. So it is kind of nice that it's up there, hidden in the very back. We've got our backup camera, which is a North American standard. And then we also do have a reverse sensing system. So a good amount of technology available inside of this thing. Now, the Sportage also does have a pretty decent towing capability. So if you've got trailer brakes, you're gonna be able to pull up to 2,500 pounds inside of the vehicle. Without trailer brakes, you're just over 1,600 pounds instead. So you can do aftermarket things, bike rack carriers, things like that. Have your dealer install the hitch. So there are a lot of options available there. But all of the same styling that we saw in the front end carries through to the back. We've got that same kind of metallic highlight going all the way throughout the bumper. We've got this like bumpy groove texture. It's kind of neat what they've done with this thing. But overall, like I said, styling is great. We've got these nice kind of cutouts for our rear brake lights and our rear lights, etc. It looks pretty sharp. One of the cool things, looking at the liftgate for the vehicle. So we've got the option for either a manual or a power liftgate, just depending on the version of the vehicle that we're in. And we also have the option for a smart liftgate, which means we don't even need to press anything as long as we've got our key fob on us. There are certain things you have to do. So you have to make sure it's turned on inside of your middle screen there, so inside of your center screen. But one of the cool things, I want to show you how this works because it's really neat. Because like, yeah, we've got the option just to the right-hand side of the backup camera. We can push there to lift this thing up. Pretty straightforward, but we've also got a few other ways that we can do that. So let me show you how this smart liftgate works because it's kind of neat. So after we have the smart liftgate feature turned on in the inside of the vehicle, there are a few things that have to happen before the smart liftgate is actually going to work. So you need to make sure that you lock the vehicle first. You lock it and you actually have to get about 15 feet away for about 10 to 15 seconds. So I'm gonna go for a little bit of a walk. All right, and after you wait that 10 to 15 seconds or so, so if you've gone to grab groceries, gone shopping, whatever the case may be, as long as you've got the key fob on you, look at this, look at this. Such, oh, an incredible feature. Like you don't need to kick swipe, you don't need to do anything. As long as you've got the key fob on you, you lock the vehicle first, wait about 10-15 seconds or so, and then walk away from the vehicle. When you come back, proximity sensors, you walk to the back of the vehicle within a few feet, and you heard the beeping there. So it's gonna start beeping on you. This thing's gonna open up automatically, which is incredible. So the Sportage does have a great amount of space in the cargo area, and that's just it. The measurements that you're looking at are just for the cargo area by itself. But a few features to highlight. We do have our top tethers along the side that you can see there. And we've got a few different ways that we can fold down the second row seats. So we could technically do it from the inside, so we can pull down, but one of the great things about the Sportage is that we also have a release just along the side. So along the side of the driver passenger, we can pull down from the inside here in order to fold down, and then just click this bad boy down as well. And one of the cool things is that once it's down, this thing is down. So it does lock into place when we've got it fully folded down, and it's a pretty flat fold at the same time. But look at the difference in the cargo dimensions when we have the second row folded down. So great amount of space. And then as I mentioned, so this thing is locked down, so we actually do have to pull a lever along the side in order to lift this thing back up again. But it is really straightforward. And one of the things that I love is that we've got the flexibility of doing it from the inside here or doing it from the second row. So if you're loading at cargo space in the cargo area, you need some more space, we can just pull one of the levers on either the left or the right side in order to fold this bench down, which is amazing. Now, a few basic highlights to point out in the trunk area of the vehicle. There's nothing off to the right-hand side with the exception of the release for the right part of the bench. So we've got a 40-60 split, so we can fold down one side or the other if we want to. along the left side. So we do have that little release I mentioned earlier. We're just gonna pull that in order to fold the seat down, which is really, really great. We've got a 12-volt power point back here as well, so 180 watts. We can power some things up, and we do actually have some cargo tie-downs there as well. Now, we do have the option from the factory or just aftermarket through your Kia dealer to put in a cargo shield there, so cargo protector. So we could literally have this thing done on 2 different levels, and that's going to essentially be a cargo shield to protect anything that might be underneath it, might be valuable, etc. But other than that, things to point out, we do have a little light along our left side there as well. And then this, it's just going to be the regular carpet liner for the trunk area of the vehicle. But one of the cool things is that this thing, we could fully remove it if we want to. And when we do, let's just get this out of the way. All right, so we do have our jack stand there. We've got our mini spare tire on top of that. And then this thing also has the option of dropping down on a few different levels. So if you need to create like a little bit more space, you've got the flexibility to be able to do it here, which is kind of nice. And it's interesting, when I lifted this thing up, I did notice we do have, oh yeah, that's cool, that's fully removable. We've got these removable trays along the right and the left-hand side of the vehicle. So we could have a teeny little bit of storage space there as well, which is kind of neat. Taking a peek along our driver's side door, so first thing to point out, with our side view mirror, there is a little highlight there, and that's going to highlight red when somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. As we start to move back, looking at the door itself, we do have a little button on the outside there, and we can push that in order to either lock or unlock the door. So you can see there, lock, unlock, etc. Hopping inside, look at this, nice highlights, which we'll get to in just a moment. But starting off along the driver's side door there, so we've got a nice look, but look at this. So as we move through, we've got a nice wood grain highlight along the middle there. We do have optional seat memory buttons depending on which trim level of the vehicle that we're in. And as we move down, we've got a nice glossy highlight right along all of the switches to control our side view mirrors and then our basic windows. We can also kill off power to those rear windows if we want to. We've got a nice little storage area there in the back there as well. And as we move down, nice storage along the door. And we've also got our Harmon Kardon sound badge right along the side there. So we're definitely doing an audio test here. We've got a nice scuff plate along the side. And then depending on the version of the vehicle that you're in, you might have power or manual seats. So obviously, as you can see there, we do have power seats, so we can bring the seat forwards, backwards, up and down there. We can adjust our backrest, and then we also do have 2-way lumbar support as well. Look at this weave texture on the seat. Ah, that looks really nice. Really nice, but a few things to point out. So just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, series of different buttons that are available there. This one is going to let us adjust the brightness of the instrument cluster. We can also use this in order to be able to open and close the liftgate. We can turn our traction control system on or off. We've got our electronic parking brake as well. The steering wheel for the vehicle is also going to be a manual telescoping. So all we're going to do, drop this thing down in order to be able to adjust as necessary. Moving down from there, we've got our pedals, and then off to the side there, we've also got our hood release. So getting underneath the hood, just going to give that a pull. That's really cool. So this thing does have, well, it's got seat memory available as an option, but the auto entry exit seats as well. So one of the great things is that the seats, if you've got the power version of the seat, will lower down and back up in order for the driver to get in and out of the vehicle a little bit easier. It's amazing. But the seat, really, really comfortable. I love it. Really nice. We've got the option for either cloth or leather seats, just depending on the trim level of the vehicle that we've gone with. And this one, because it's the X-Line Limited, best seat that's available, call it the best seat in the house, and it really is. Like, this has a good amount of cushion to it, nice amount of comfort. We've got a 2-way adjustable headrest, so it'll just go up and down. No forwards, backwards available as an option there, but it still is really comfortable though. This is nice. Now, a few base things to point out about the seat, which I did mention along the driver's side door. So we do have our driver's seat memory there. So if you want to, you can set up 2 individual profiles, which is fantastic, and it'll remember your seat. The steering wheel inside of the Sportage is going to be a manual telescoping across the board, but it is nice that it's still telescoping. But I love it. All of the base highlights I pointed out along the door, the wood grain follows all the way through the bottom part of the dash there. It looks really nice. Nice leather wrapped wheel, but I can't get over the screens and the setup that Kia's done with this thing. It looks fantastic. Now, yours might look a little bit different just depending on the version of the vehicle you're in and whether you're in Canada versus the States. Because this is the highest available trim level, it's essentially going to be the most fully feature loaded. So we've got a fully digital cluster screen as well as a nice size media screen there as well. So if you're in some of the lower trims, the cluster screen will probably look a little different. But this is just going to be a basic video looking at some of the basics of the interior. If you want to dive in deep into this technology and learn more about the steering wheel cluster or that media screen to set up Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, check down in the description. I've put together some comprehensive videos that go through how all of this stuff works. But let's look at some of the basics. So that metallic highlight that follows through the dash, etc., moves into the steering wheel. So we've got a nice highlight there. But as always with Kia vehicles, left stick is going to let us adjust what's going on with our running lamps. And we can also adjust, obviously, for our turning signals. We can flash our high beams on as well. Certain trim levels of the vehicle will also have the active view monitor, so our blind spot monitoring system. So as we press left, right, etc., we will see what's going on our sides. So rather than having to check our side view mirrors, we can flick left, right, etc. Our side view mounted cameras are going to give us a look at what's going on. It looks fantastic. Like, this thing is loaded with tech, which I love it. But stick on the left hand side gives us that flexibility. On the right hand side is going to let us control our front and our rear windshield wiper. We do have paddle shifters inside of this thing. So we do have an 8-speed automatic transmission inside of this, and we can adjust what gear we're in this way, so just behind the steering wheel. Or if you want a little bit more of like that manual shifting feel, we've got our shifter there. So we've got our park reverse neutral drive, but we could flip it down into drive, smack it to the left, and that's going to give us the flexibility to shift up and down using the shifter instead of the paddle shifters. So you've got some different options available. Got a series of different buttons. We've got a voice command prompt, so we can change songs, radio stations. We can navigate using our voice. We can also press the button to turn on our Google or our Siri Assistant if we're hooked up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which is amazing. Along the right-hand side, we do have a button that's going to help us navigate through the little cluster screen there. And then, as always with Kia vehicles, we've got our smart cruise control system. So the smart cruise is essentially a set it and forget it cruise control. So you set it at, let's say, 100 kilometers an hour on the highway. If the car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They pick up speed, change lanes, whatever the case may be. It's going to automatically pick you up to your set speed again. It's a phenomenal system. Now, I do a walk-around video as well, so I should say a test drive video where I explain that system. So if you want more of an understanding of how this system works, check down below for that full walk-around instead. But it is really nice. It's a good setup. We've got our lane follow assist as well, so it's going to keep us perfectly balanced in our lane as we go. And a series of other great options available there. Shifting over to the side, I'm going to turn this thing on a bit just to go through some basics. Inside of the cluster, I still can't get over this digital screen. It looks really, really cool. I think Kia did a really good job there with this thing. It's fantastic. But moving over to the media squirrel, but moving over to the media screen for a second here. I did mention we do have factory navigation, but we can hook up through Android Auto or Apple CarPlay to use Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze, depending on which system you're connected to. But we've got so many cool options available. We've got a valet mode, we've got our regular radio, Sirius XM, we've got our Kia Connect, so we can connect through our cell phone as well in order to do a few great things, which is amazing. Digital owner's manual is not standard, so it's interesting. It's got user manual, but it's a QR code that we would scan in order to pull up the manual on our phone as well. But so many amazing options available through this screen. All right, and as we start to move down a tiny little bit, I'm not going to drop you down too much because I'm going to show you a few different buttons that are going to be available here, and it's all based off of this. Look at this. This is really cool. I love the fact that a Kia has this as an available option. This is really neat. So what this is going to do, it's essentially going to give us, you can see there, a change between either our volume or our climate. So we're going to start off on the climate side of things first. So we can turn the whole climate on or off as necessary there. We can also adjust what's going on with our temperature. We can adjust our fan control there. Do we want to have it auto climate? Do we want to have it go for air circulation, front rear windshield defroster? And we've got a few other options available there as well. So windshield face feet, etc., some sort of combination of all of the above. We've got our defroster there as well, and then our current temperature for the driver versus the passenger side. So a few options. We can press sync to bring the passenger side back to whatever the driver's side is. But we push this little swap button and all of a sudden things are a little bit different. So we've got a few other buttons now. So all of a sudden this goes from our climate into our audio. So we can turn our audio on or off as well if we want to. We could tune this way, or we could say things, we could push the voice command prompt on the steering wheel in order to change it out that way instead. So we can adjust this way, but let's say if we wanted to say 94.9 FM.
Now listening to FM 94.9.
That is a cool option. And then incredible sound. The Hell song, Sum 41, amazing. But the Heck song, that is so good, so good. All right, so we've got that as an available option there. So we've got our volume now, turn on or off. We can also adjust the files there, or we can tune this way instead. So a few options there. Now we've got a few other buttons here. So we can push map in order to hot button press and get into our factory navigation. We can push nav to get into all of our navigation settings. We can customize. So this is a custom button that we can set up to go between different audio sources, etc. And obviously there, so my phone's connected, which is why that's showing up as an available option there. We can seek this way as well. So as we go through different options there, we can also, so if we were connected to different options, so for our radio, we can go that way. We can seek this way if we want to. We can push radio again to change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, or we push media in order to jump between different media there. So we've got my Bluetooth audio, we've got sounds of nature, AM, FM, etc. If we had a USB stick with MP3s, that would show up as an available option there as well. Or we can just jump into our regular media there. We hit setup, and that's going to bring us into our different setup options that are available inside of the vehicle. But if you want a fuller walk around of this screen, check down in the description below. I go through a fully comprehensive video of how all this stuff works. So many different options that are available here, and I just love that this is a hot, oh, we don't even need to push up or down. We can just push this whole button and it changes out. That is so cool. But I love that this is available as an option here inside of a Kia. Like, I just love the dynamic look and the way that this thing is laid out. It is really, really cool. But as we start to move down a little bit, let's brighten you up a teeny little bit. So you can make it out there. We do, oh, maybe not. Let's get this out of the way for a sec. So we do have a 12 volt power point there, 2 USB ports, so USB as well as a USB-C, and then may have an option for wireless charging, just depending on whether or not your vehicle, what mode or what type of vehicle you've got, I should say. So wireless charging is not standard across the board, but it is available there. And you can see right now that we currently are connected and we're charging up. Now I wanted to show you something. So this thing is about the same size as the S21 Ultra as well as the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and there's still room. So if you've got a larger phone, just go in knowing it'll be able to fit in that wireless charge pad there. Moving down from there, we've got our push button start. We do have heated and ventilated front row seats as an available option depending on your trim level, and that's the same for the driver passenger side. Heated steering wheel on top of that. And then with our shifter, so let's move down a teeny little bit more, down we go. So we can see we've got our park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then we've got our plus and minus buttons there. So yeah, we've got paddle shifters that we can change between gears, or we drop down, we slap it over, and then we can adjust gears this way instead. So we can go up and down there as necessary, back into park. So it is nice that we've got that as an available option. And down from there. So few other things to point out. So we've got a ton of space there. So as of right now, just like open cup holders, but we can also press this. Haha. Haha. So we've got that as an available option. And then we can click them to lock them back into place there. And then a few other things. So you can see we've got quite a few different buttons that are available here. So we've got our hill descent control, so our downhill brake controller. Auto hold setting. So what that means, with this setting turned on, what's going to happen is if we put the car into drive, we can take our foot off the brake and the vehicle is not going to move whatsoever. So it is nice. I do recommend just general safety to keep this button on. We've got our auto start stop button, and what that's going to do is if we come to a complete stop and we're stopped for a few seconds, it's automatically going to turn the engine off in some circumstances. So it doesn't happen all the time. It's essentially up to the vehicle when it does it. We've also got this in order to get into our 360 camera, which looks phenomenal. And we've got our park sensing system. So that beeping that we get as we back up, we can turn that off if we want. Next up, we've got this, and this is going to let us change between either different drive or terrain modes. So our drive modes, we've got normal, sport, or smart mode, with my favorite being the sport mode. And just the way it looks on the media screen is fantastic. We can also jump out to terrain mode, so snow, mud, or sand, which each mode will do something different. So it's going to play with our traction, stability control, and things like that, just depending on what we have going on. So it is nice that we've got so many different options available here. Little armrest as well, so we've got some nice black stitching that follows through the door, the steering wheel, into this armrest. we can lift this thing up and we've got a nice amount of space there. We've got about wrist deep, which is kind of nice. Good amount of space back here though. Now, as we start to move up overhead, the dash is great. Like we've got that nice feel from that we have along the door follows through the dash. We've got a speaker along the front there as well, and some speakers right along the side next to the vents. There is an auto-dimming rear view mirror, and this thing also does have our garage door opener. So if you've got one at home, you can easily program that in as well. Up overhead from there, we've got our tow versus our SOS mode, some cabin control lights as well, and then this one also has the panoramic roof. Now, one of the cool things, it's only a single button to control not only the shade, but the roof. So we can literally pause it part way, we can open it up the full way, and this thing moves. Like it goes really quick, which is kind of neat. But we can open up the shade by itself. We can pop the whole window, well, not the whole thing open, but we can lift up this whole thing as well. It opens up that far. So this far, it's not going to open up further than that, but it still is nice to know that it creates a nice cross breeze there. And then when we open it up, there is a little shield here as well for bugs and things like that. But one button press to close it down, and as we push that, that is so cool. As we push it, it's also going to close this thing as well, so our little protector there. So it's kind of neat. Oh, that is really cool. And it opens and closes surprisingly quickly as well, which is kind of cool. I love it. Our little headliner there is nice. So it is going to be just a regular cloth headliner. We've got our assist handle as well, driver passenger side. We've got our visor. It's got a business card holder. Our light along the very top. Vanity mirror there as well built in. And then we can extend this bad boy out to block any sun that might be hitting our eyes. So they have done a phenomenal job on this thing. Overall base styling inside of it is great. I still can't get over the way that this cluster screen looks. And like having our blind spot monitoring system inside of this thing as well. It's a nice little startup, but I love it. I love all of the basic options that we've got. The blind spot monitoring system is so cool. I love that we've got that as an available option here. But Kia, I think, has done a phenomenal job. First row spacing inside of this thing is really nice. Let's see what's going on in the second row. Oh, the second row of the Sportage is really, really spacious. Like, this is actually kind of nice. The seats are super comfortable all at the same time. Now, I'm 6 feet tall. I've got the driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall, and I still have a good amount of knee space, great amount of foot space, and up overhead. Ooh, it's actually interesting. So I've got about 1.5 inches roughly of headspace there, but it doesn't feel like it because I can like fully freely move back here, which is fantastic. But a lot of the same highlights that we saw along the driver's side door in the front carry through into the back. So we've got this great looking wood grain along the side, nice handle there. We do have heated second row seats, and that's strictly going to be for the outboard seats. So this middle seat will never be heated, but the second row seats are also not going to be standard across the entire vehicle lineup. So it's going to depend on which version of the Sportage you're in, but it is available there as an option. But I do love it. We've got that nice glossy highlight along the door. We've got our Harmon Kardon badge along the side there as well. And a few other base highlights to point out. So the same seat styling that we saw, we've got this like nice weave texture along the second row seats. We've got all of our anchor points and tether points along the back as well. So if you've got front-facing, rear-facing child seats, not going to have an issue inside of this vehicle. Now, typical Kia styling, which I love it. We've got our USB power points along both sides, and they are USB-C. We've got a nice amount of storage space down the armrest as well. No, tiny little storage compartment, I should say. Not a nice amount. We've got a tiny amount of storage, which is kind of a neat thing. And we've got our basic vent control. So we don't have any options for climate control at all inside of the second row. But I mean, at the same time, good amount of space and great controls available for the front side. But wiggle test, this thing is nice and comfortable. Oh, this is cool. Now, one thing to point out, the seats themselves are actually locked into place, so we can't slide them forwards or backwards at all. But one of the cool things is the lever along the side that we would use in order to fold the seat down. We can also pull that to give it a nice recline. Oh, that's really nice. Now, with the seat fully reclined, it bumps up my max height that's available to about 4 inches roughly. So if you've got taller people that need to get into the second row of the Sportage, it's possible they'll probably just have to recline the seat and ride in a teeny little bit of comfort. Oh, it's a terrible thing, but it is nice. Other things to point out, we've got our assist handle on both the driver passenger side and the second row, a hook on both sides, and then we've also got cabin control lights along the back, but this is nice. And I mentioned it in the front, this one does have the panoramic sunroof that's available inside of this thing. Obviously the shade's closed right now, but it is amazing that that is available as an option inside of this thing. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. But another thing to point out, so along the door, we do actually have a little bottle holder there. It's a teeny little space, but it's available. And then we do have some cup holders along the middle there. So 2 individual cup holders. It's nice though. Styling is nice, comfort is nice. The headrest, adjustable as well. So it's a 2-way, ooh. Oh, so it's a 2-way adjustable. This will happen if you pull too much. So easy enough to reinstall this thing though. Oh, down it goes. Ah, so nice. But this thing, like I still can't believe with Kia vehicles how loaded these things are with technology at the price point that they're available. Like it's ridiculous. I love it. The blind spot monitoring, it gets me every time. I see that blind spot pop up in our turn and like right in our cluster screen. I'm like, yes, Kia, such a good job. It's such a good feature. I love it. But it is nice that we've got that as an available option. But so many different things. Like we've got a voice command prompt where we can change songs, radio stations. We can navigate using our voice. Oh, that's neat. Oh, cool. It was kind of like warning us and seeing what's going around us. And because we've got a full 360 camera, it's also giving us a full 360 view here as well. I love this. Like this view is so dang cool. Kia! It's so nice. I love the way that this thing looks. You guys have done a phenomenal job on the design of this. So I've only seen this, I guess, in 2 other cars now. The Jeep Grand Cherokee, which is new for 2022, or it also is in the Land Rover, like Land Rover Defender, Land Rover, things like that. So it is crazy that it's available inside of this thing as well. But it's respectable. For a 2.5 liter engine, that was nice. Now, you may have also heard, so it was revving up a little bit higher, and the reason why is because I've got this thing locked into sport mode. So we've got a series of different modes. We've got a toggle shifter right underneath our shifter. We can change between a normal, sport, or an eco mode instead. We can switch between a series of different terrain modes on top of that. So a lot of options available. A little bit of fun. For a Kia that's a 2.5 liter engine with a vehicle this size, it's got decent acceleration. Now I am in the sport mode, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you hear I talk about it all the time. Like I love me my sport mode. It's an amazing, amazing system. I'm gonna go forward a little bit. I'm gonna pull into a random driveway. I'm gonna be that guy today. Honey, I'm home. Who are you? Who are you? All right, here we go. This will be good. Oh, that blind spot monitoring system though, it is so nice. All right, there's a car coming the opposite way now, so I'm just gonna give it a second. Well, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna purposely throw it into reverse right now, and we should, yeah, this is gonna be good. Okay, so that is one of the added safety systems that's available inside of this thing as well. So it lets us know when there's somebody coming perpendicular from us as we back up. It can help us, it can literally slam on the brakes as well. We can have it for a warning, we can have nothing come on all at the same time. So it's gonna be a matter of preference what happens there, but it is nice that we've got that available as an option. So nice, so nice. That was a look at the 2022 Kia Sportage, 2023 Kia Sportage. What did you think? Features and styling wise, this thing is fantastic with all of the available and standard technology inside of it. But if you have any questions, drop down in the comment section below and let me know. More than willing to talk you through any issues that you might be having. If you're looking for a fuller walk through on the media screen or the cluster, the steering wheel buttons, things like that, check down in the description below for that walkthrough instead. But if you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, share it with your social networks, and until I see you next time, take care. So we can push that in order to either auto start stop, but what that's going to do is take us down to it's essentially going to turn the engine off.